nasty.
A single party showing agreement is basically a contract between the seller and the real estate agent, and you are specifying what the buyer's name is.
Okay.
If this person here buys a property from you, then you are agreeing to pay me X amount of dollars. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally never, have worked with friends and family. 100% of my business has been from online Zillow leads. The nice thing about Airbnb is that if I was to rent it out like long-term basis, I would only be getting $3,200. I get $6,000 per month.
All right, so welcome on back to another episode of the Nasty Truth Podcast. Today we have my close friend, Nicole Abood. Nicole Abood is a real estate extraordinaire. In her very short career, she's now sold over $38 million worth of real estate. And she's done so well for herself. She's been featured in multiple magazines and on multiple articles all over different platforms. Now, she's done so well. She's doing the best she can to teach new real estate agents the pitfalls, the tips, and the tricks on how to be successful within her industry. If you want to hear some of the ways that you can be successful in the real estate industry and hear about the way that you should be hustling every day to be successful, then please tune on in. You're going to have a lot of great content today that is going to help you in your career. Hello, everyone, and thank you for chiming in to another episode of the Nasty Truth Podcast. Today, we have my lovely friend, Nicole Abood here. Nicole has been one of my oldest friends, if not my oldest friend from childhood, and I'm super excited to have her here today. Nicole, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about Nicole. Nicole is a real estate extraordinaire. Nicole has been doing real estate now for the better part of a decade. Since she was 22 years old, she's been a real estate agent. I know her family is heavily involved in real estate. We had her cousin on the show a little while ago, Samar Madawar. He's a fantastic broker. And today we're going to be talking to Nicole about a wide variety of real estate topics. Specifically, Nicole has dived down into writing a book about how to help new real estate agents, because real estate agents go through a lot of the same troubles, no matter where they are, what they do. They go through a lot of the same things, and she wanted to help guide new real estate agents to go down that road. Nicole they have a branch called RE/MAX Prestige, correct?
Yeah, RE/MAX Prestige Properties in Mission Viejo.
Yeah, so I know she helps manage that with her family. She has now been featured in Top Agent Magazine and Executive Agent Magazine, correct? Mm-hmm. And these are very prestigious places to be featured on the cover of these magazines, and she was sought out to be in these exclusive features, and she's going to tell us about that today. I know Nicole has sold over $38 million in real estate, which is no small feat and extremely impressive in the short amount of time that she's had her career. So she's done a fabulous job there. I know her father is a fantastic real estate agent too. He's very successful and owns a good amount of land in different places and has been able to make them very profitable. So, Nicole, thank you so much for being here, and we're very excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here as well.
Yeah. So, Nicole, let's talk about, why did you end up becoming a real estate agent?
So I actually, I went to UCI, and I was actually studying to become a lawyer. But at the time, I realized that I really loved, interacting with people, and I was just a people person. And my father got into the real estate business. And so I was really inspired to see how my dad, he started off as a full-time engineer, and he kind of got into real estate part-time. So as a kid, I grew up, at the age of 14, we would go look at the rental properties, collect checks. And I was really inspired about how my father ended up, quitting his full-time engineering job to pursue real estate full-time. And so I really thought that this could be, a great career for myself to not only help, have the attorney side of it, where the negotiating and the contracts, but also the people skills and be able to help other people. And that really made me happy and smile. So that's kind of why I pursued, real estate, was because of my family.
Yeah, so that's amazing. I know I was talking about with our videographer here before you walked in, we were talking about like generational, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the greatest thing you can do is if your parents have a specific knowledge or a skill set, even if it might not be your passion, you should at least take the time to like learn from them, right? Because they're trying to give you 10, 20, 20, 30, 40 years of knowledge, and they're willing to do it because you're family. A lot of people are so against, their family telling them what to do. And I understand you don't want to be forced into a field, but you should at least be open to the fact that they're willing to share that knowledge with you. And so I can only imagine that your dad has just allowed you to go leaps and bounds ahead of other people because he's able to share all of his experience and knowledge with you on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my dad is more on the development side, so he's purchased and bought properties and developed them and made them, full-time businesses, so I got to basically learn from him just the managing side of things, how to deal with people. We both have always been people, people. Yeah. But really, I think what really established my career was when I was in college, as I mentioned, I was doing bankruptcy law. I was dealing with people from short sales. Yeah. So when the crash happened in 2012, I really had to see things on the other side of real estate, where it was more the legal side. So helping families and seeing how sorrowful they were for losing their houses. Yeah. And that really impacted me, and learning about economics during that time of my senior year. So I was really encouraged to go get my broker's license, and so that's what I did. I got my broker's license at the age of 22. I dove right into real estate. We opened our RE/MAX franchise that year.
What year was that?
I was graduating. It was in 2012.
2012. Okay, so the economy was starting to recover at that point.
It was just starting to recover. Yeah, so it was a very interesting time because people were very angry, and I remember going into open houses and seeing houses that were completely graffitied because people were losing their houses, and they were really depressed, and they just wanted to destroy everything because they were losing their house to the bank. And it was just very sad times, So I was fortunate enough to see when the economy crashed, and then and also to see how it rose again. And just to see the level of appreciation that you can get as being a homeowner was just fantastic. And that's why I dove in and purchase property myself, and I'm happy to educate and teach people on that side of things as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about why people were so angry. So I mean, for those of you that younger generation might not understand what happened in 2008. So people were super frustrated at banks. They were super frustrated at lenders because a lot of people in 2008 were getting into these crazy mortgages, which they were called balloon payments. Or basically, what happened is you'd have a fixed rate for 2-3 years or 1 year, and then what happened is that rate would then change after 3 years. Everybody thought they would just be able to keep on refinancing because the property values were going up. But what happened is the property values didn't go up anymore. We had the crash. And at that point, now you're stuck with this crazy balloon payment. You can't refinance. A lot of times, many people were lying about their income because it was stated income, stated assets. Yeah. And then you'd get this payment and you'd be like, what the fuck am I going to do? How am I going to pay this? So they lose their homes. They're super mad at the lenders for not protecting them the right way, and they're mad at the banks. So is that did I summarize it pretty well? Exactly.
So the crazy thing is, back in the day, there was stated income. So stated income means you could just go walk into any bank and say, hey, I make $100,000 a year. Yeah. You would not have to show any documentation, any proof of funds, any proof of pay stubs, and you would get a loan and you would get qualified. Yeah. And so everyone was in on this. The credit agencies were, marking. So basically, there's a primary market and a secondary market. So when you were doing your loan, they would bundle things up and they would sell it to the secondary market, and they were, rating them Class A rating, which is basically low risk, no chance of defaulting. When really they were a C grade rating. Yeah. So there was high chance of people not paying and performing on their loans, because it's stated income and it's not a fixed interest rate. So it means it's variable.
Yeah, it's variable.
It goes up and down. So a lot of people, they get concerned, is this going to happen again? But since then, there's been so many different regulations that have come out, and now things are so much more strict, and, people actually had to pay precautions for what they did. FHA, all these big federal housing agencies, they were basically now suspended from doing any of that type of activity, and they've been highly regulated. So a lot of people ask me that, well, is there going to be another crash happening? They've been holding off
Everyone's
3 years now. 2020. There's going to be a crash. We're going to hold off. Yeah. And it's really sad to see, because a lot of people will be influenced by media. They'll be influenced and not understand the reality that things back then were not the same as they are now.
No, it's a completely different
because
market.
Now things are more, strict, and they're regulated, and you do have to show pay stubs. You do have to show bank statements. Yeah. So, the only things that could possibly hurt us in the future would be like, student loan debts, or people always bring up these things, especially what's happening with coronavirus right now, that people, had this forbearance periods and they weren't paying their mortgages.
Yeah, and there's going to be some like economic backlash later on down the road. Yeah, but even with that, it's not going to be the same as what was going on. It won't be the same. Because it was the whole entire, country was doing these loans, and basically it ended up hurting everybody. Yeah. I remember being back in 2008, I had some friends working in the mortgage industry, and I remember they were telling me some of the shady shit they were doing, is a nice way of saying it. And they were like, this guy's a janitor, we're going to put him head of custodial services. And then they would state his income, and they would state it twice as much as what he is. And then they end up losing their homes, and they think, oh, well, I'm helping this guy. I'm getting him 40 grand cash right now. Yeah. But the problem is, 99% of people don't know what the hell to do with 40 grand cash. They're going to take that and they're going to spend it immediately. Not to kind of like defend the lenders a little bit too. The good lenders would at least tell people, look, I'm getting you this cash. Take this money, put half of it in a bank account so you can make the payments for the next 10 years. But the problem was people were taking the money, spending it immediately on something, and then when it came to that balloon payment, or when that new rate came in, they couldn't do anything, and they were just shit out of luck. And it was tough.
So what you're talking about is like cash out refinancing. Yeah. So people could do that as well, but typically, it's like a whole another topic. But I think that a lot has changed since then, and not only that, lenders could make a lot of more basis points. Yeah. So they were making a lot more money on the back end, where now it's like regulated. So you're in good hands basically right now.
Let's explain what basis points are for those people that don't understand.
So basis points is basically in the back end where a mortgage lender gets paid. So back in the day, they were able to charge 6%. So that's like basically like 6%. Yeah. So I'm not a mortgage officer to explain it, but like they used to be able to charge more percentage on the back end on how much they get paid. Yeah. And now they're like limited and regulated on how much the mortgage officer can make. They can't just like make more money. Yeah, because they're selling you like
No, I agree with you entirely. My dad had a mortgage company. I think it basically, for everyone that doesn't understand, the loan officers could charge you more interest rate so that they could make a higher commission, and you didn't really care because you assumed that it was going to be refinanced regularly. So it didn't bother you that much because you're like, I'll just refinance again in a couple months and the interest rates will probably go down. So you just didn't worry about it. But now you're saying there are more FDA regulations where they can't charge as much on the back end, where you don't see what they're charging you. And now they'll just make like, a more fixed commission, and that will protect you a lot more.
Yes, that's correct. So I can't say the power of home ownership, and what people don't understand is why do prices keep going up and up and up. Well, the inventory supply is so low, people are just not wanting to sell, you know, and there's always going to constantly be demand. Our population is growing. There's a lot of people, that are either moving out of the state or just having more kids, so there's always going to be a demand for the supply, and just basic economics. If there's low inventory and there's a lot of demand, then prices continue to go up.
Got it. And you're saying right now, during coronavirus itself, there's been a high demand, right? Oh, prices are going up like crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I've never seen the market. Usually like March, May, springtime is like super crazy, and you have like prices. That's the only time prices will go above asking. Yeah. But right now it's like even worse than like typical spring market. So people get scared of that. Okay, well, why should I buy, right now when the prices, are going above asking, or why should I? So people always focus on price when the reality is you need to focus on interest rate. So the interest rates have never been this low. Yeah. And I can attest for that because in 2012, when the market crashed and was finally recovering again, the interest rates were like 3%. I remember I never saw it go below 3%. Like very rare, I just never saw that. So now we've been seeing 2.6, 2.8%. Yeah. So this varies on multiple factors. I'm not quoting an interest rate because again, I'm not a loan officer. Of course. But just seeing my clients' files and it depends on a couple factors. Your FICO score. Yeah. If it's a single family residence or an investment property, all those factors will vary on what your interest rate level is. But to give you guys an example, I purchased a house, 2 or 3 years ago, and my interest rate for an investment property was 4.3%. I'm refinancing right now, and the interest rate is like 3.3%. So that saves me an extra $500 per month.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So what you have to look at, and don't focus so much on the price, focus on the interest rate. Right now, the reason why there's such a high demand in pricing, and people wanting to buy, is because the interest rates are the most historical low that we've ever seen, even after, the first economic crash. So now is a great time to get into houses, even though, the prices are crazy. But it's important to have a good real estate agent that's going to know how to deal with multiple offers and how to deal with seller counter offers, because it is a fight. You're going to be going in and it's trying to get the house, and it's you're going to be basically fighting with other people to get the property that you love, and there's very low inventory.
Yeah, I know one pro tip that somebody recommended to me that was a real estate agent. He said, if you know somebody that specifically works, like say you narrow it down, you're like, I know I want to live in this community. You want to find like real estate agents that specifically work in that community on a regular basis. And what you can do is try to find the agents that know people are about to put it on market, and hopefully you can work out a deal with the person selling before it even gets on the market. Then you alleviate yourself the headache of having to do a bid war, which is what's going on right now.
And that's a smart agent, and that's kind of what I discussed in my book that I started writing. So the book that I wrote is specifically not just for new real estate agent, but it's for people that are seasoned in the market, because I can guarantee you that I have gone through every single crazy experience that's happened to me in my career, and I teach how to protect yourself and how to not make those same mistakes that I have encountered. So one of the chapters in my book is called the single party showing agreement. So it's kind of what your friend has described. Okay. So I don't know if you want me to elaborate on it now.
I want to hear it. I don't really know what that means. So single party showing agreement. Because I don't think I entered into that, because I did that when I bought our place recently, and we didn't sign any agreement like that, but I'm sure an agreement would have helped. So what is that exactly?
Okay, so a single party showing agreement is basically a contract between the seller and the real estate agent, and you are specifying what the buyer's name is. Okay. So when you specify, okay, this person here if this person here buys a property from you, then you are agreeing to pay me X amount of dollars. Okay. Yeah. So this contract is used for examples like that. So let's say, I'll give you a perfect example. I had this seller that I met. I was just, showing my client, and we were waiting in the lobby. And the seller approached me, and he said, I'm looking to sell my property. Would you and your client be interested in coming and taking a look at it? So I politely told him, I said, that's great. Can I get your contact information? Yeah. And we can schedule a separate time because we have another appointment. So the reason why I did that is because, in this business, there's a big issue with for example, you're a lawyer, okay? When you hire a client, you either sign a retainer agreement and they formally hire you. In real estate, there's not that type of commitment level, okay? Because the norm in the business is basically nobody wants to sign an exclusive agreement to work with you, because there's so many real estate agents out there that will not require you to sign a contract with you. So why should they sign a contract with you and bind themselves to you if they don't know who you are? Yeah. So this is where the single party showing agreement comes in full effect. So the reason why I told that guy, hey, let me take your number, I'll reach out to you, is because if you go up there with the buyer, let's say, and you bring the buyer up to the seller's house, who's to say that buyer is not going to go knock on the door and make a side deal with the seller?
Just to exclude you, so you don't have to pay a commission,
because right? Everyone has their best interest at the end of the day. Yeah. The buyer is going to want to save money, and the seller is going to want to save money.
What is your commission on when you help someone sell a home? How much do you get paid?
So commission is not fixed by law. Real estate agents can create their own commission. Okay. But the norm for this area is between 5 to 6% total.
Okay, got it.
So that is...
And that works into the loan total, or does that have to come out of a separate amount?
No. So when an agent's going for a listing, they'll negotiate this commission between them and the seller. Okay. And then the listing agent has the ability to say, okay, out of that 6%, I'm going to keep 3, and I'm going to give the other person 3, or I'm going to keep 3 and I'm going to give them 2, So you have the ability to choose what you're going to give the buyer's agent, because if you think about it, sometimes people don't do an even split because there's factors costs that go into it. Real estate agents, the listing agent pays for the photography. Yeah. Sometimes they pay for the staging. Sometimes, they pay for the advertisement. So you're not really getting a full 3%. You're going to be getting, you have to factor your cost in.
Got it. So you're saying that the selling agent, so typically it's 6% for the total purchase. Yeah, and then you guys will split that between you and the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So the buyer's agent doesn't get 6 and you get 6. It's 6% split total. Typically between everyone.
Yeah. So that's if you're like really good. Most agents like do 5% and then, it's like 2.5 and 2.5. Okay. Or, there's other people who will discount their commission. They'll go to other sellers and be like, hey, I'll do the listing for 1% and we'll give the buyer's agent 2.5%.
Okay.
So we're dealing with those types of factors, and that's where discount brokerages are starting to come in, and or even like, for example, like Redfin, they're offering programs where their agents are employees; they're not independent contractors. Okay. So they have the ability to actually give back money to credit. So we're dealing with different factors of people that are discounting their services.
Yeah.
And so back to so you also have the ability to have, get both sides of the commission. I bring this buyer and the seller. So what you were referring to earlier with the single party showing agreement.
Yeah.
So basically this guy, I went to his house. I realized that my buyer was not going to work for him. Right, because his floor plan was going to be a lot more expensive than what my buyer could afford.
Got it.
So then, as an agent, you have to, like, a market expert is somebody really who's on top of their field, right? So you have to. I remembered like a bunch of different agents who had other buyers that would love this floor plan.
Yeah.
So now this becomes like a pocket listing, right? So something that's not on the market yet, right? And now you are giving somebody a valuable information. So I called up another real estate agent. I said, hey, we have something off market. Do you have a client? Is your client still interested in this floor plan? He said yes. So we got the seller to sign a single party showing agreement between the seller and the buyer's name. So this is another thing I go over in my book, and this is for more like an expert knowledge. So you can't just put the individual buyer's name. You have to put their trust name or their LLC name. You always want to find out how they're buying a property, because God forbid they close escrow, they did a deal behind your back, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't know what their trust name is, or you don't know what their LLC name is. How are you going to know that, that's the same buyer that ended up buying the property?
Oh, got it. To protect yourself.
yourself.
You want to know who's going to actually buy. So then you became the seller agent on that deal.
Yeah. So
because you knew that another buyer that was looking to buy it, and then you now were able to represent this guy. So let's say that your first person was looking to buy it. You have been the buyer and the seller on that deal?
I would have been the buyer and the seller. So that's when dual agency comes. So that's called a dual agent. So oftentimes, so that you're going to ask, so do you get the total 6%? Yeah. And the answer is typically the seller's going to be like, okay, since you're bringing the buyer and you're representing me, will you reduce the commission to 4.5%?
Yeah.
And then that's when we reduce the commission. So but you have to be very careful with like dual agency.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, on the other end, right, when you're doing that, do you have to have specific types of agreements when you are the buyer and the seller agent?
Yes, you have to disclose to both parties that it's possibility to represent more than one buyer. And it's very tricky because you could get in an instance where somebody could try to suspend or revoke your license because they felt like you were not doing your fiduciary duty to both parties.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah, it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, it's a big time. So you basically, I'm sure you have a clause in the contract which is basically waiving their conflict of interest?
Yeah, so basically you have to take different precautions so that situations like that don't arise. And you have to remain ethical in the process, you know? So that's another chapter I'm dealing with right now in my book, because I recently had this situation happen to me, and I was representing the buyer and the seller. And, my seller verbally accepted my buyer's offer.
Yeah.
So I told him, hey, he's willing to move forward with you. And then all of a sudden, another agent presented an offer to me.
Yeah.
So I still have a fiduciary responsibility. If another higher offer came in and I'm still representing the buyer, I legally have to present that offer.
Yeah.
So no matter if I want to make dual commission or not, it's my responsibility and my buyer went haywire. He got so upset with me, that I presented the other offer, but you have to do what's right and ethical.
Yeah.
And that's about part of being a real estate agent and, doing what's right at the end of the day. So
yeah, that's very tough. Because it's hard because you lose out on your commission. You're going to piss off your buyer. You know, they're not going to be stoked about the situation. Mm-hmm. And now you're sitting here, but you have to do what's right because you could lose your license.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to always be careful and just choose before you, take certain situations. And so the single party showing agreement has actually helped me out so much in making money, because now I'm like a little matchmaker. I'm like, okay, this seller, this buyer, let's put them two together, versus because most people won't sign that exclusive agreement with you. So, and that's the other part of the book. I talk about my horror stories of how how you can basically lose out on your commission if you don't have an agreement signed between you and a buyer.
Yeah, so, it's tough. I know, for me on my end, right, I have it written out in my agreement because I work on contingency, right, on most cases. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, I hope that they read the agreements, but in my agreement it plainly says, if you fire me or if something does not work out, I'm entitled to my full hourly wage for the entire time that we work together. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys can do something like that, and I wonder if you could put an hourly rate.
So that's what I tried to do at the beginning of my first year. I'm like, you know what, after the first time I got burned, I'm like, I'm going to do this right. Yeah. I'm going to make everyone come into my office, sign a buyer exclusive agreement with me. But it's not that easy. Imagine all my leads came from online leads. Yeah. So I invested in Zillow in the first, few years of my business. So every single person on the other, end of the line is a complete stranger. Yeah. So what do they want when they call you? They saw a property online. They want to make an appointment. Yeah. They don't want hey, can you come to my office so you can, meet with me and maybe sign this agreement or, go over the process. No, they want quick customer service. I want to see this property. Are you available today at 3? Yeah. So at that point, you have to make a decision. Are you going to jump in the car and go show them the property and take that risk of, because you guys have to remember, we don't get paid a salary. We get paid after we successfully close a deal. Yeah. So all of our gas, all of our time, that's all for free. Yep. So I've shown so many properties, and at the end of the day, the people were like, oh, actually, my cousin wants to write up the offer for me. Suddenly there's a family member involved. Yeah. So that's the thing, is you're going to be faced with those conflicts as a real estate agent, and you have to make the choice. Are you going to jump in the car and go show them because somebody else will? They can easily just call the other agent, hey, and there's an opportunity that a deal will be closed. So and that's the other topic I talk about in my book. My first year in real estate, I was so excited because my best friend from high school, she called me up. Well, she didn't call me. She actually went through the Zillow app and found us. And so I was super excited to help her and her husband. They were buying a new property. And these are just horror stories that you would never think would happen to somebody. Okay. Yeah. So anyways, we go show her the property. I show her 3 properties, and I save the best one to last. She ends up loving the house. We come back to my office. We start writing the offer, and then she says, Nicole, can I step out for a minute? I'm like, yeah, of course. And she goes and she's like, I need to call my mom. So she goes and calls her mom, and then she comes back in the room. She's like, I think I'm going to have to hold off on doing anything. I want my mom to see it. I was like, oh, that's great. Let's go show her. Is she available right now? And she's like, oh, she's not available right now, but I'll be in touch. Yeah. So the next couple of days I tried calling her, no response. Yeah. And then finally a week goes by, and she's like, we just decided to rent instead. And I don't know, I had this weird feeling in my stomach, something is not right. So I just happened to check the tax records, which we have the ability to do. Yeah. And I saw 1 month later after it closed that she was the new buyer of the property. Wow. I was just oh my God, how did I just get,
what a bitch.
How can I get used, in this situation,
Yeah. I mean, and I was it's sad. It's just you did all the work. Yeah. You helped her, so I found so I was technically the procuring cause. I found the property for her.
So the worst part about the story, right, is I ended up contacting the other agent, the listing agent, to see what happened. She told me after she left my office, she went with her mom to the property, and they brought their family friend realtor, who's a full-time firefighter.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to help him out, they ended up using him to buy the house. So you would think that you would have, like a precaution how to get your money back, right? Yeah. But the process is very difficult in real estate. It's not that way. So the only way to save your commission is if you have this exclusive agreement with you. Yeah. Signed by the agent that, hey, I am going to work with you. If you don't have this agreement signed, then the buyer is free to work with anyone. They can work with multiple agents. You can go show them 45 properties, and then they walk into one open house, and they go put an offer with the listing agent. Yeah. So this is the type of things that I talk about in my book, and I talk about every single topic is about a story and a result, an outcome. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Yeah. But each time, like, that was $25,000 that I lost out on, So that's why the single party showing agreement is such a successful way, because the buyer doesn't need to sign the contract. Yeah. It's only between the seller and the realtor.
Seller and the realtor.
Seller and realtor. So the buyer never needs to sign anything. Got it. Even if that buyer, so to finish that story, when the guy went up, remember how I ended up bringing the other agent's buyer. Yeah. So the crazy thing about that story is I was protected. I had my single party showing agreement. I had the trust name. I had the LLC name. I had the buyer's name. Like, there was no way that this guy was going to go around me, Yeah. And I had so you have to do a cooperating broker agreement between me and the other agent. Like, hey, there's 4.5% he agreed to. I'm going to give you, this amount, and you're going to get this amount. Yeah. So once we got up to the house, right, we brought the buyer up to the house. The buyer and the seller, we completely lost control of the whole situation because they both started talking in their own language. We could not understand what they were saying. Yeah. They ended up exchanging phone numbers. Yeah. Doing a full-on negotiation of the deal without us. Yeah. And then tried kicking me out of the deal because I was technically just like matching them together. Yeah. So if it had not been for that legal agreement, that single party showing agreement, which is like, I would say not a basic thing you learn, then that was the only thing that protected me to get my commission. And it was like the easiest $17,000 I ever made. Like, I just like, here you go, hello. Yeah. So, and
that's amazing.
And we closed in 10 days, cash offer. But like, they literally tried to do it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, they tried giving me every excuse in the book. Like, oh yeah, I knew this person from back home. Like, they know my mom. And I'm like, no, you guys never knew each other. Like, I brought you brought him. Like,
yeah, but even if they did know each other, it wouldn't matter, right? Because your contract's very clear. Well, I'm interested. I almost want to like look at this contract just to see like how it's written out, right? And so the way, like, I would like to hear like some more details about it. So it basically says like, no matter what happens, if this person that I brought ends up buying this property, I'm entitled to my commission. Does it list your exact commission on there? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so
it doesn't state the price. It doesn't say what price that they're going to buy it for.
But it just lists like 1.2 or something.
Yeah, it just says this is the total commission that you agree to pay me if this person successfully brings an offer and you accept it. Okay. So the other part of the agreement that, so I'm working on doing a course basically, which is an extension to the book. Yeah. And it's going to describe, so on top of that, so like let's say the agreement is just for a year. Okay, so anything can happen, right? A year goes by, maybe the buyer wasn't ready to purchase the property. Yeah. But there's another inclusion provision on the contract that says, okay, if this contract ends within 1 year, I always add an additional 180 days to the contract that I'm protected. So after another 6 months, if that person ends up writing an offer after my contract is expired, I'm still entitled to get paid.
Okay, got it. It's like kind of like a little extension on there.
And you have to understand, because anything can happen. Any situation can happen in life. Let's say that the buyer is not ready to buy it today. Yeah. Right? And a year from now, so to add to that story, this seller would have never listed with me because his brother-in-law was a real estate agent. Got it. So how crazy is that? Like, the impossible happened. Yeah. Like, I was able to put a deal together even though his brother-in-law was a realtor. Yeah. So let's say I didn't put that deal together. And a year goes by, his brother-in-law lists the property, and then the buyer that I showed, ends up seeing it online and is like, oh, there's that property. Yeah. I'm more in a financial position to purchase now. Yeah. goes, sees it, writes an offer. Who is technically the procuring cause of bringing that buyer? Is it me because I showed him the property, or is it him since he saw it a year later?
Yeah.
So because that's where the additional 180 days really saves you in the contract.
Okay.
Because
so is there something that kicks in that 180 days, or you just
Yes.
make it? Okay. What kicks it in?
so after the contract expires, that 180 day kicks in.
Okay, got it. So I mean, technically, it's for a year and 180 days.
Yes.
Is what the contract is for.
So that's why, these things, like, that's why I said my book's called Rookie Mistakes for Rookie Mistakes for Agents, but
Yeah.
it's not just for new agents. It's for agents that have been in the business for a while, and who don't know how to do these contracts. I just had to learn.
Did you draft these contracts, or did
No,
your
they're
experienced agent?
already included in your car forms. So once you become a realtor, you have to sign up with the Board of Real Estate Agents and pay a yearly membership fee, and then you'll have access to these documents, legal documents.
Yeah, okay,
but a lot of times they're not utilized.
I mean, but that's good that they're given to people and that they're there and like available resource.
But nobody knows how to use it the right way. So that's what in my opinion, that's what a market expert is. It's not somebody that just knows how to consistently, send out flyers to the neighborhood. No, a market expert is somebody who's organized and knows how to sell a property off market.
Got it.
Majority of my sales are off market.
Got it. And so do you require now all of your people that you work with to sign these? I mean, I know for me as an attorney, I can't work for anybody unless they sign a retainer or a contingency agreement. I can't even reach out on their behalf without that in writing. So are you at that point in your career where you won't work for somebody unless they sign these agreements?
So single party showing agreement, I always do it, regardless. But a buyer exclusive agreement, I never use it because it's just, most people will refuse to work with anyone. They will refuse to go show them property without a buyer signing an exclusive agreement to work with them. But my experience is that it's very difficult to get somebody to trust you to just sign a legally binding document to you. And you're not going to just lose out on money. You're going to go show them the house. So what I suggest is that you show them the first property, you build the rapport with them at the house.
Okay.
And then you can invite them back to your office and talk about the next formal steps. So sometimes you might be lucky and the next formal steps is writing the offer, or sometimes the next formal steps is just figuring out what the husband and the wife or whoever is the decision makers of purchasing, what they're looking for. And then you can describe, okay, this is why I sign an exclusive agreement to hire me, because I really dedicate a lot of time, finding you a property, and I'll send out mailers just to find, anything off market for you. And at that point, you could see if they're willing to sign it or not. And that's another thing I discuss in my book is how to handle those objections that you're going to be receiving from anyone that you're going to be asking to sign that exclusive agreement with.
Okay, it's very interesting. And so you're saying it's better almost just to have the seller agreement when you're taking them there, because then that at least alleviates the
100%.
stress for that. And you don't have to put any pressure on the buyer. And then after you've created that relationship,
so
then from there you can go into the buyer exclusive relationship.
Yeah, so at that point, you don't even need a buyer exclusive agreement.
Yeah.
If you have that agreement signed with the seller,
you're fine.
You are good to go. And I do not release any addresses to the agent before that contract is signed, because technically it's not really your listing, right?
Yeah.
If I told the guy, hey, this is the unit on this floor, he'd be like, oh, okay, thanks for the information. Let me go get a single party showing agreement from him directly. Why do I need you,
So pro tip is never release the address.
Never release the address until you get in writing.
I thought that on Zillow now it gives you the address and stuff though. People can just go check it out and go talk to the agents.
This is specifically for properties that are not yet on the market.
Got it, for properties that are not yet on the market.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's segue. I want to kind of ask questions. So dealing with real estate agents, right? There's so many of them out there. How have you found that you get your best leads, right? So you said you've used Zillow, you've paid for leads online. Where do you get your best leads from, and what would you recommend for somebody that's starting out?
Yeah, so 100% of my business came from Zillow. I know that, when they train you, they tell you to always go for your friends and family. I personally never, have worked with friends and family just because I never like to ask anyone for favors or help or, I try to educate, but mostly 100% of my business has been from online Zillow leads.
Okay.
Or just sending out marketing. So I spend about $1,500 a month and I get about 8 leads.
Okay.
So from there, I do basically, I market. So like, let's say I get a lead online. A buyer wants a specific neighborhood. Then I will go out and I'll send letters to that specific community saying I have a buyer looking. Is anyone interested in selling?
You'll send what kind of letters?
Just a very simple letter.
Okay.
I have a client.
To all the addresses in that community?
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay.
So then
I'll have like your name on it and your picture, and you'll say, hey, I have someone looking to buy in this area. Do you know anybody selling?
Yes.
Okay.
So those letters are very responsive. I get at least 5 calls from them.
Okay.
So from
Out of
there,
how many letters typically?
like, let's say 100 or 100 to 200 letters.
God, do you have a company that you use to set out these letters, or is it your assistant?
I personally just do it myself.
Oh, okay, very interesting. And you find all the addresses, and then
so you get the addresses from the title company.
Okay.
And then the title company will give you the mailing labels, and then you basically just send out the letter out. So then, like, let's say now I got those people to respond to me. So then that's when I do the single party showing agreement, and I say, okay, I have this buyer. But you don't want to just do the single party showing agreement. You want to actually go in for a listing agreement too, because, maybe that buyer doesn't like the house, that you found them. So now you don't want to lose out on that lead that you just got. So you can say, well, hey, why don't we expose your property and get multiple buyers to look at your house? Right now the inventory is super low. Maybe you can get more people to bid on your property. Yeah. And
you can get a much higher percentage than you would before.
And you can get a higher, price. If my buyer works out, great. If he doesn't, then we can find you more buyers.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've sent out these letters, and then after that, people will call you, and then you'll reach back out and be like, okay, we have somebody that wants to come check out your home.
Yes.
Okay. And that's interesting that most of your people come from Zillow. I thought that most of them would be friends and family, but Zillow is good leads. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to be quick. You have to be very responsive.
Yeah.
And you can't be slow. People want customer service, because you're going to be displayed on the right-hand side of the, the property with 4 other agents. So that lead is going to you and 4 other, typically you and 4 other people, or maybe it's just going to you specifically if the person actually selected you.
Got it. And you're very on top of it. You just call people back.
Yeah, so I'm very on top of it, and, I pay attention to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
and I know now you're kind of segueing. You're doing a lot of commercial properties now. So commercial versus residential is more like business buildings, and so that's a completely different beast all in itself. Correct?
Yes.
Do you enjoy doing commercial more than residential?
So they're 2 different animals, but the nice thing about it is it's actually almost the same amount of work.
Got it.
See, like I was living in LA, back in January, and I started getting into hotels, and the hotels, which were like $200 million, were the same hard work as like selling a property for $500,000 or $600,000. And the reason why is because, I knew sellers that wanted to sell off market, and I had friends that had buyers that wanted to purchase these hotels off market. So we were writing offers, and I've never sold a hotel deal in my life, and suddenly I'm writing offers for $200 million, and of course the economy crashed after, like with the coronavirus, all the hotels like went out of business.
Yeah, that's tough. Nobody's wanting to go in there. They're all in. I didn't think about that. It's all like quarter occupancy and stuff, so nobody's going.
So all the sales reports went down, so like they could no longer justify the price.
Yeah, but at least you'll be ready for it when it's ready to come back, and I'm sure that'll be sooner rather than later, hopefully.
So that's the nice thing about what I want to advise people is, the difference between commercial and residential. Residential is, you're helping a family, right? Like they're starting this new chapter of their life. Maybe they're having children, maybe they're downsizing, maybe all their kids are grown, and now they're, starting this new chapter of retirement. So that is like an emotional, aspect of purchasing a house. You're getting somebody to finally have financial freedom and, this appreciation ability, which is so exciting and rewarding to be able to have. Every single client of mine, I could say, has made $70,000 or up in equity.
Yeah.
Just from I look every year to see how their properties are doing.
Yeah, everything's been going up.
And how amazing is that to say that you help somebody achieve financial freedom, versus if they had that money in the bank, they'd be making 10 cents. I'm making 10 cents right now on my money in the bank, So giving people that opportunity to have financial freedom, that's what you get from residential. From commercial, it's more numbers based. It's not an emotional process. Either the numbers make sense or they don't, So you're looking at income and income and the price.
Yeah,
Is the cap rates, is it making sense? If it is, then it's a quick buy. They'll put an offer right away. You don't have like an emotional, like, oh, I don't know if I should buy it or not buy it,
Yeah, it's all a numbers game.
Yeah, so you just have to see, getting into the business, what you like, because there are different categories. You can also get into the flipping, like just working solely for investors and just finding them good deals off market to flip.
Got it. And I know that you now own a couple of properties yourself. So I want to talk about two topics next. I want to talk about, first of all, I want to kind of hear about the magazines that you were featured in. So like, what are these magazines about? How did you end up getting featured in there? And then I want to kind of talk about Airbnb a little bit, because I know that's an interesting market, especially since a lot of communities are shutting it down, right? They don't even want you to do Airbnb anymore. And I want to kind of hear about that too. Yeah. So let's talk about first the magazines. How did you get featured in these magazines? What are these magazines about?
Yeah, so super exciting. I mean, so my first magazine I was featured in was Executive Agent Magazine. I was 24.
Yeah.
So I got my broker's license when I was 22. So just 2 years out of the business, I was already featured as, so you can either be featured inside the magazine, or you can have an actual cover feature and have 7 pages, like all about you.
That's awesome.
So you
There's
have
that much about you. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a lot to know. So it's like, it was super rewarding that, I mean, I got to go through this interview process, and you have to be selected. You can't just like, ask to be put in the magazine.
Yeah.
They have to reach out to you. You have to be selected. And basically I was featured as the top agent for all of Southern California. And that was in 2014. And I was now recently featured again for Top Agent Magazine and, for the feature cover as well. So I was super excited because I was always wanted to be on something under 30, the Forbes under 30. And that was like a big, nice surprise for me that I was recognized for all my hard work, and I was chosen for the cover. So
that's awesome.
And, Josh Flagg's been on there. So all these big agents were on Top Agent Magazine. So it's just super rewarding to be able to share my story. And you should definitely go online and read about it and learn more about me.
What websites are these places?
So you just go to Nicole Abood, Top Agent Magazine, or Nicole Abood, Executive Agent Magazine, and you'll see the PDF. Yeah. And it'll have all about me. And
for those of you that are listening, Nicole is spelled Necole.
Yeah. Yes, Necole, and then last name is Aboud as in David.
Yeah, so if any of you are looking it up, that's the proper way to spell it.
Yeah, and the two magazines are Top Agent Magazine and Executive Agent Magazine.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was fun anyways. Was it like a photo shoot and they interviewed you?
Oh, yeah. The whole shebang.
Yeah, the whole shebang. Nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's I owe like all my success to my parents, who started me so young in the business and just really teaching me. I mean, so I bought my first house when I was 21, and I didn't even have real estate income yet. And you might ask, okay, how the heck did you buy a house at 21? Yeah. Me and my siblings, we all each, so basically a lot of people think, you need to be qualified to buy a house. There's so much creative ways to buy a property where you don't need to be qualified. So for that first house that we bought, I was 21. My brother was like 16. My sister was like 10 years old. And, this guy was about to lose his property, and he needed a way to basically still get his equity without losing his property. Yeah. So that's where we came in, and we gave him an option basically where, hey, we will take over your mortgage payments that are already happening. And then once we fix the property up and sell it, we will pay you your equity that you are owed. Okay. So that's exactly what we did. We only had to put $10,000 down.
That's awesome.
To secure it for 2 months. And so, our parents always grew up giving us money from piggy banks and Christmas holidays. So each of us was able to save $10,000, and the remodel at that time costs about $60,000. So, I had about 20 at that time. Each of my siblings put in 10. So we bought this property like by ourselves without our parents' help, and but they were there to guide us like throughout the whole way. Yeah. So that at that time we bought that property. I think it was like $470. It was $470. So it took us about a month and a half to fix up the house, and during that time we put the seller in a hotel. We paid for his expenditure. We were still paying his mortgage. Yeah. And for those of you who are asking what type of program this is a wraparound loan program. It is legal. and they are offered in the state of California. So this is how we bought this house. So we fixed it up. We sold it. We sold it for $580,000. So we got $100,000.
Yeah.
He got his $250,000 because, he had equity in the house.
Yeah.
So equity arises when, you guys have to realize that every time you're paying rent, you're paying the same amount basically that you'd be paying for your mortgage, but you're paying for somebody else's house.
Yeah.
But when you're paying your mortgage, every month that you pay your mortgage, your principal goes down and down and down. So if you bought it for $400,000, or it goes down every single year.
Yeah.
So and the equity is rising.
Yeah.
So this guy got his $250,000. We got our 100 something thousand, and then we exchanged. So we bought another house, which we still currently own. We bought that one for $580,000. We did the same thing. We were not qualified yet.
Yeah.
And we put so this guy, similar situation. He was also losing his house. We did the same thing.
How do you find these buyers? Or these sellers?
These were actually just agents in our office who gave us the opportunity because the guy was either going to go to foreclosure or bankruptcy. And when they go to foreclosure or bankruptcy, they don't get any of their equity. Or if they do, they get very little.
Got it.
So this is like an alternative way that's a win-win for everyone. We still get to take advantage of their low interest rate and their low payment. So we continue to make the payments for them.
Yeah.
And but you run a risk. So the second time we did it, the note was called due because the escrow company did something wrong.
Okay.
And when the note is called due, you have to come up with like all this money of what the house is worth at the full loan amount.
Oh, wow.
So we were like literally like scrambling. Whatever. Parents came to the rescue on that one.
Yeah.
And we were able to put a loan on it and refinance and did it the traditional way. But so we still have that house. We bought it for $580,000 in 2014. So I was like 24 at the time.
Yeah.
And now the house is worth $850,000. I'm putting it for sale right now.
That's awesome.
So $400,000 in equity. Where the heck are you going to find that? At our age. So bought that property. We had long-term tenants in there for 4 years. We're putting it on the market now because it's a good time to sell. The inventory is very low.
Yeah.
So we're now deciding whether to exchange it because you have to realize, so if you bought something for $580,000 and now it's worth $850,000, that's $400,000, close to $400,000 that are going to be taxed.
Yeah.
So, and the government, if you don't go buy something else that's a like property, the government is going to charge 30 to 40% in capital gains tax on that gain that you just received. So the only way to avoid that is by doing a 1031 exchange. So that is going and taking your money and going and buying another property within 60 days.
Got it. And so you guys are going to do that.
So now we're looking at, are we going to do that? Or is each kid going to take their own portion? And
so the capital gains hopefully won't be as bad because it's going to be split into 4 or 5.
Yeah. So so now I'm like learning about like new things. Like we were talking to attorneys yesterday about deferred tax. A lawyer can set that up for you. Yeah,
you can get portions of it now instead of getting it all at once, and then you can get a certain amount of money.
So now you're not forced to go find a property within 60 days. So there are different options that are available to you. But so that's how I bought the second one. And then the third one that I have also right now.
Before we go on, let's explain.
That's the Airbnb.
So deferred money basically means that you can put your money that you're getting as a profit from a sale into some sort of vehicle where you can potentially get a certain amount of money every single year. Yeah. Instead of having to name all the money that she would make on this sale as a profit all at once, she can just name portions of it as profit or income over the next couple of years, depending on how much she wants every single year. So that way the tax liability is significantly lower than getting hit with $100,000 tax liability all at once.
Exactly, yeah. And an attorney can do that for you. And so, we're looking at different options right now where we don't have to pay that capital gains tax. Yeah. And you need a 1031 exchange specialist to be able to go over that with you. It has to be an investment property. You could live there 2 out of the 5 years, but it has to be rented to somebody. It can't be your primary residence where you live there.
Understood.
So the third way, again, was another creative way how I bought my other property. I was door knocking in Dana Point, and I was looking for...
What is door knocking?
Door knocking is where I go to people's houses. I ask them if they want to sell.
How's that go?
Yeah.
I'm sure with coronavirus, it's not happening
right now. It's not happening, but my younger self had it in me to do. I would always go in my little Louboutins and like knock on 200 doors. I don't know how I had like,
Did it work?
Yeah, I used to get like 4 or 5 people at least.
That's amazing.
That would, it's a really good. I mean, when you're just starting, it's really good.
Yeah, so you just spend like an
right now
entire
I'm kind
day
of feel like I'm getting old. I'm like, how am I going to go door knock these houses?
That's funny, but so you literally just walk up people's homes and you'll knock and you'll be like, hey, my name's Nicole. I'm a real estate agent. Are you looking to sell your home?
Yeah, and we're allowed to do that as realtors versus lawyers. I know you guys are not allowed to do that.
I lose my license if I do that shit. You can't directly advertise.
I like it because, you get to talk to people. It's like exciting. You always had some people come out in their underwears.
That's funny.
It's super funny and like interesting. One house like had mannequins like throughout the whole window. I'm like, what the heck is going on in here?
Oh man, that's
and
weird.
like turtles on the yard. I'm like, where do we live? Like it's like Mission Viejo,
Yeah, you're getting in on people's personal lives real quick there.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't know that people do that. I mean, I've seen people drive around like the golf carts and hand out flyers and stuff, but literally knocking on people's doors and be like, hey, are you looking to sell your home?
Yeah, I'm a people person. I cannot stay in an office. I have to be out, about, talking to people.
Some people just like super weirded out. They're like,
no,
what the hell
they
do
like
you
love
want?
it. They love talking to you. Like, I mean, I've gotten maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, it was funny. Like in the beginning, it was like I was like by myself door knocking. I was like 21, you know, and I'm like sitting there door knocking, and like this one of the neighbors got like concerned for me because I was like a girl.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, did you know that there's like 5 pedophiles on this street? Like,
that's
I'm
funny.
like sex offenders, and I'm like, and then so I'm like thinking like, oh my god, yeah, that's like so true. What if they're like, yeah, come on in, I would love to sell. You know,
have some tea. Yeah,
have some tea with me.
That's super. Yeah.
So you have to.
You didn't have a bad experience.
Yeah. So you have to be careful. There's a lot of things like
maybe at least pay a security guard to come with you if I'm not back in 5 minutes. Break down the front door type of situation.
Yeah, it's definitely people are like handing like taser guns to me at like one point in time. Like, be careful.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you ever have like a weird experience with that or no?
Yeah, I did have a couple weird experiences, but
yeah, let's hear about those. Yeah, what did people do? Did they just like start hitting on you, asking for your number? Like what happened?
Yeah, pretty unhappy experience I had one time.
Yeah.
But one of the craziest experiences was I was supposed to go show property. This is like 2012, right?
Yeah.
So like a guy was losing his house. It was like middle of the night in Santa Ana. And I was going to show the property, and my partner at the time ended up going to show it instead. And thank God he went because it was dark out. And so he went into the house. He was upstairs. 3 gang members, all tattooed up, like basically were like armed, he said, oh, what are you doing here in this house? Like, are you taking my house away from my mom? Or and they shut the door behind him, and he's like, yo, I don't want any trouble. Like, he's like, I'm just here to show the property, and my client who's coming is a police officer. Like, please, like, just leave. But I was just thinking, like, oh my God, imagine if I was like in the house, like as a girl by myself. Was he actually
a police officer, or did he make?
Yeah, he was a police officer.
Oh my God, yeah.
So like he literally lucked out, but like they were armed. Yeah. Like, and people were very angry during that time. So it's just like a very sensitive time. Like, imagine you have to be compassionate at the same time. Like, imagine going to somebody's house and like, somebody wants to go buy it cash, but like this person had 20 years of experience in their home, and now they're losing it based on something that somebody lied to them about, and told them that they can qualify.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting.
Very sensitive time period.
2012 would have been the time because those balloon payments were usually 2, 3, 4 years, and then you have about a year of not paying it, and then that's when the bank starts coming in to collect on it. Okay, so you were getting into it right when people are the most pissed off. Yeah. Like everybody was super fucking angry.
Yeah, and like all these cash buyers are like, oh, I'll pay cash, and it's like they're like, F you,
Yeah.
And then the other experience, I guess I'll tell you another time.
That's funny. Yeah,
I was very angry.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm sure somebody harassed the hell out of you.
Yeah, I was very upset. Someone engaged tried to hit on me.
Okay, I
was very upset about it.
Yeah, I'm just like this young, pretty 21-year-old girl is coming to our doors. Like,
I was like, we're done here. Yeah. So let's go.
Moving on. That's funny. So now you're into Airbnb places, and so that's something that I've been interested in too. But I know it's only allowed in certain communities, right? So like, what's been your experience with Airbnb?
Yeah, so that was the 3rd property I bought in Dana Point. So that's the other creative way I was going to tell you about. Yeah. So I actually pulled out the equity in the second house that we bought because we had the $400,000 equity. And
So you pulled out cash?
I pulled out the money and I went and bought the other property.
Okay.
And my parents gave me the other $150,000. So once I did that, then I refinanced and I put that put that money back into the other house, the second house.
Got it.
So, because once you refinance, you can put it back, because it's not owned by just me, it's owned by my siblings. So I had to put my own loan on it. And the reason that happened was because the seller was getting ready to list it with somebody else. It was like an amazing deal. I bought it for $605 and the house at the time was worth $750. And the guy would not believe me. I was like, your house is worth $750. He's like, no, I don't believe, I literally had him sign something like, you are selling this to me.
Yeah.
I was like, way under market value. I've showed you the comps.
Yeah.
For some reason you want to sell it to me, whatever. So I got a great deal. I bought it. I closed fast on it. So that's the one that I Airbnb. It's in Dana Point. The reason why, so what made me know that was a really good deal was because back in 2008, my exact unit was worth $1 million and it was only $600,000 that I bought it for. And even though it's crazy, I literally had to tell myself, how am I going to buy a condo? It's like a 2-bedroom condo for $600,000. I was literally had to take the emotion out of it and be like, this is what the market was back then. This is what it will appreciate to in the future, hopefully. If not, it was $750 when I bought it. So it's right now it's worth $850.
Okay, great.
So, and I rented out Airbnb. I've rented it out for 2 years now. So so the nice thing about Airbnb is it really does give people opportunity. You do have to furnish the whole place. So with that house, I completely remodeled everything from ground zero. It was complete original condition. Yeah. It cost me about $35,000 to fix it up. Yeah. So that was fun learning about the whole remodeling. So I always help clients now too. I'll go and pick material with them or just have Excel spreadsheets of what I paid and how much things cost me. So the nice thing about Airbnb is that, so that community, if I was to rent it out long-term basis for 12 months, I would only be getting $3,200. I get $6,000 per month.
That's amazing.
So it's 3 times the amount. So now the only thing is it's a little bit more work because sometimes you're going to have vacancies. You're not going to always have people rent. Yeah. And in your question, do cities allow it? So your association has to approve. So just because the city allows it, so the city of Dana Point allows it, but for a minimum of 30 days. So, and my HOA approves those 30 days. I cannot do anything less than 30 days.
Got it. So you can do month leases, basically.
So even if you advertise less than 30 days, I had trouble.
Airbnb does 30 days.
Yeah. So
got it.
Yeah, they do. So I had trouble with the city because mine was marketed for less than 30 days, and the city gave me fines for it. So you do have to be careful. Some cities require permits, certifications of occupancy. So it just depends per city. So right now, do you
have it occupied most of the time now, even though it's 30 days?
Yeah, so right now I have somebody in there for 6 months. So most of my people come from the East Coast, just to escape the weather over there. So I have one person from Miami. So it's nice, it's a nice complex. It's across from Monarch Beach Hotel. Yeah. So so now, I'm faced with the other decision. You can take out that money and go buy a multifamily, right? That 200, I could be making a lot more money with that equity. Yeah. So in real estate, you have to constantly think about what you have, what you're investing in, and not being afraid to make change. Because with multifamilies, you're not qualifying based on your own income. You're qualifying based on the income that it's generating.
And what do you mean by multifamily?
So multifamily is anything above 4 units. So residential is still considered 1 to 3 units. Okay. So you can have 3 units on one property. So meaning you can it could be a house with 3 different entrances and 3 different kitchens. Okay. You know what I mean? And you can live in one and you can rent out the other 2.
Okay, got it.
So there's so many creative things in real estate. Imagine you're living in one and then you're renting to the other 2 people. They're paying your mortgage and you're living rent free. Yeah. Why would anyone ever rent? Yeah. So I'm big on that. I really don't believe on renting because renting just goes up every year, 5% every year. And then at the end of the day, like you're either, being told that the seller wants to sell, so you got to move and vacate and go find something else. It never really feels like a home, and you're always paying somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah.
So that's why I work with people to really come up with a plan on how they could sit down with me, and I really consult them. It's technically, that's why I always laugh. I'm like a matchmaker, consultant, therapist,
100%.
attorney.
Yeah, you're helping people get from like stage 1 to stage 2 of their lives, which is important.
That's the first step, is like sitting down, coming up with a plan, and showing people the power of home ownership. That's the only way that, in my opinion, one of the biggest ways wealth is created.
Yeah. So what do you think separates you from other agents out there? Like, why do you think you've had success? Because I mean, I know just like personal injury attorneys or like loan officers, right? We're a dime a dozen. There's so many of us, right? And they're all out there. What do you think makes you successful versus other people?
I think for me, so I have my weaknesses. So people in this business, the ones that are successful are the ones that are consistent. Consistency is the key to everything in life. If you are consistent, you send out that mailer every single twice a month, then you're going to become like from nobody, like nobody knows who you are, to all of a sudden, this person, because they're recognizing your face.
Mailer that was like asking if people want to sell their homes.
This is like postcards. So, so if you're consistent in your business with anything, this is the beautiful thing about real estate.
Yeah.
With lawyers, for example, you guys have to like either open up your own business to become like a partner, or you're going to have to go like 10 years or 15 years, working at the bottom and then really working your way at the top. Real estate doesn't work like that. You could become at the top like within 1 month.
If you have the capital.
No, not even if you have the capital.
Okay.
If you were just out there, I have a friend of mine in LA. He's only had his license for 4 months. He's already closed 20 million.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And because he goes out in the field every single day, he's consistent. He goes and talks to people. He just talks, and he makes connections. So that's the beautiful thing about this. Like I dealt with at that time, like looking too young. Like I was only 22. How is a 22-year-old? But as long as you know what you're talking about, people are going to respect you, and they're going to do business with you. So I think that what has set me apart from other people is the matchmaking thing, just being able to like literally pay attention to what people want. I really sit down and I really understand what they're looking for. And I'm not afraid to go out there and go get it. So if it's not on the market today, I will make it come to market. I'll go door knocking. I'll go send out letters. I'll go call the neighborhood. Like literally, I'm like become like a spy. Like one of my high rises, like I literally know every single person, what their last name is, what they do for a living, what their profession is. And you have to know these things, because if you don't know who lives in that building, how are you going to know who wants to move into that building? Right? So I found out like the majority of people in there are doctors. I know what type of doctors they are. I know that they're radiologists. So chances are the reason why that they like those buildings is because they're lock and go. They're low maintenance. It's perfect for them traveling. So, but you have to. What do you
mean by lock and go?
So in a high rise, you don't have much maintenance. You don't have a backyard. You don't have you have somebody taking care of everything. It's secured. So once you like learn the patterns, I mean, you can't like just stay on that pattern, right? Because, but you can use it. It's a part of an economic statistic. And that's where my economics degree comes back into factor, because I look at these things, I pay attention, and by paying attention to these factors, you're going to know who to talk to, how to broaden your search, how to, as agents, you can't just you can't just say, oh, this type of person is going to buy in that building. No, you'll be surprised. There's multiple different people that are going to buy that you might not even think would live in that type of a high rise. Yeah. So you have to be open-minded. Always, advertise to everyone. Yeah. But you can be a little bit knowledgeable and know exactly the pattern of the building and who lives there. Yeah. So I think that's what sets me apart, is I don't afraid to talk to people. I'm always putting things together,
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm sure you have a large list of buyers and sellers. Do you ever just reach out to them and be like, is anybody looking to buy? Is anybody looking to sell? Do you re-advertise?
Yeah,
to your people?
It's all about consistency. Like I said, so you maybe that person's not ready today, but they're like, hey, Nicole, actually, if you can call me in 6 months from now, 7 months from now, you have to be good at follow-up. Yeah. So do you have your follow-up systems in place? So people that are really good in this business are people that know how to be organized.
Do you have a CRM?
No, yeah, I have a CRM.
Which one do you use?
So Remax, they provide us with one, but a lot of people use like Follow Up Boss. They use Mojo. So there's different ones.
Do you like the one that Remax gives you?
Yeah, Remax, the nice thing about Remax, it already has like all the templates in there. So you can already, all the campaigns are already created for you. So they make it very simple.
They make it easy.
Just send it out. But you just have to actually do the work and input the data.
Got it.
Because nobody's going to do that for you.
Got it. And so the agents that come work under your guys' brokerage, they get access to all of this stuff.
Yes.
Got it. And do you like have to pay on a license by license basis for each user?
Yeah, each person, each Remax agent has to pay their own monthly fees, which is $235 a month.
Okay.
It varies every year, goes up like maybe $5.
Okay.
And then they have a yearly membership of $400. So, but you get access to so many different things: education, templates, postcards,
Have you
training.
done all the education and stuff that's on there?
I personally haven't done all of it. So that's the thing, is like, if you can be disciplined, that's one thing I lack. I lack consistency. So if I were consistent and I actually sent out postcards, then you're always making a residual income for yourself.
Yeah.
Because imagine just sitting back at home and your postcards are just going out, right? And then people are calling you. You no longer have to go like chase other people, door knock, go, So if you learn to be consistent, the sky is the limit with this business. That's why I love it.
Yeah. Do you have like a company that sends out all these postcards, or like, who do you like to use?
Salim, and it's from Improv Print.
Improv Print?
Yeah, he
How do
does
you
all
spell
my
that?
IMPROV print.com.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. So if any of you are looking to do that, you can reach out to Salim as your connect over there.
Yeah, Salim. Yeah, he's great.
Awesome. Very cool. And then so these podcasts, these postcards have like, no worries. They have like your photo and they have just your information.
Yeah, so postcards and flyers, they're more expensive.
Are you talking about those like little notepads sometimes too?
Yeah,
that like
people send out notepads, but the postcards I'm talking about is like, hey, I just sold this house. This is what other properties in the neighborhood are selling for.
Got it.
So those do not work if you only send them out once. If you send it out once, you're going to lose $2,000. Like, that's another thing I talk about in the book. Like, I talk about all these things. So I really want you guys to check it out and check out my online class that I'm creating, because I'll go into extensive detail. Because the thing with real estate, you get your license and then they just kind of like throw you in there. Like, they don't teach you about contracts, buyer counter offer, seller counter offer, seller multiple counter offer, what the transfer disclosure statements are. You really don't know what you're doing. So like, there is so much detail that goes into it. So that's, like what I would be going over.
So you're going to be making an online course. What platform are you using to make the course? Is it like a training or like a teacher that's helping you, or are you going to doing it on your own?
It's called like, those class, like their websites that are already I forgot the name of it, Classmates or.
No worries. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you basically have like a website that like pretty much has like the templates on there. And then you just upload the videos, and then you have to like make handouts and stuff for like each, or you can decide how you want to do it.
Yeah, so you can go at your own pace, and it'll be like a supplemental thing to the book.
Okay.
So the book will just be based on lessons and how you learn from those lessons, and then the course will go into detail how to deal with those contracts.
Got it. And so with the course, will people have to pay separately for the course, or will it be like part of buying your book?
No, it'll be separate.
Got it. So there might
people
be like
want a book,
teasers or something.
then they can just have the book. If they want a course, the course is going to be more geared to like really getting detailed into it and specific.
Got it. How are you planning on like marketing the book? Is that like a whole different thing, or are you just going to pay for marketing, or what are you going to do?
I mean, I'm going to focus on agents that have been in the business for the past like 1 to 7 years, because I really think it could apply to multiple people. Yeah. Like, I talk about other topics include like how to deal with an international buyer.
Yeah.
If they don't have a social security number, if they don't have a tax ID, because I've come into instances where those people try to sell and they don't have a tax ID, and then they will not have access to the money when they sell the property until they file a tax ID with an attorney, and like they have to go through this whole process. So a lot of agents don't know that in the beginning. They don't know that they have to go like a notary. They can't go to a notary to sign the deed over. They have to go to the embassy in their country.
Oh, wow.
So like, these are why the book is not just for beginners. It's for intermediaries, advanced people, people who've been in the business for a long time, because I've encountered so many situations that you can think of, Yeah. Because I deal with international buyers all the time too.
No, 100%.
And cash buyers. And So there's different processes, even auctions. I have a chapter on auctions, how to deal with an auction property.
Yeah, because I know hard courts is getting pretty popular right now.
Yeah,
right?
so like auction properties, how to deal with people in trusts, an executor of a trust.
Yeah.
So there's different topics that I go over and how to like deal with all those issues.
Okay, very interesting. So if anybody's looking to get that information, what's the name of the book one more time?
It's going to be Rookie Mistakes. All real estate agents should know.
Got it. And how long until that comes out, or when will it come out?
Hopefully if I sit down and finish like in the next month, but it's already written. I just have to publish it and put it online. By the time
this is released, the book will already be out. So for those of you that are looking, is there like a website that people can go to get access to it?
Yeah, so I'm going to have a website. It's either going to be on my domain, www.nicoleabood.com, or www.brokerinheels.com. So I have BROKER, and then I think it's the N. I have to check, but I think it's IN and then heels.com.
HEELS.
Yeah, it's either IN or it's N, heels.
Got it. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So I kind of want to segue for a little bit towards the end of this podcast here, and I want to talk about some more stuff personally about you. I know we've already talked about some really bad client situations. In the beginning, you kind of explained how you've dealt with basically people screwing you over and you going around your back and dealt with the contract. So let's talk about if you could go back in time and talk to little teenage Nicole. What are some advice that you would give her if once she's like getting into this field or going down this road? What would you tell that person?
I would tell her basically to just focus on what you're passionate about at that time in your life.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you that, there's just things like that would have helped regardless if I got into real estate or not. In achieving like success. Like, so for example, I was really into like events and like throwing events, and we were doing fundraisers and stuff like that. So that skill set, learning how to, like I was in a sorority but never showed up, but like our sorority at that time, like it was actually truly amazing. We raised $100,000 for the American Heart Association in one night. Just by collecting, going to different businesses and asking them if they're willing to donate, a piece or item or a vacation spot or jewelry to our fundraiser, and any proceeds would be, given to the American Heart Association. And we had like a big whole event at the Hilton, and like a DJ and like, so that whole process, like looking back at that process, even though I thought that was such a silly time in my life, I never went into anything, but like that skill set, like is something that you could bring into real estate, for example, because you have to, those are people skills, going and being able to talk to people, learning how to convince somebody to give you a product for free that's tax deductible, and then, selling it. So how does that relate to real estate? So when we do open houses, we have to do a big show, right? Like if you're selling $1 million property, multi-million-dollar property, you have to make it a fun party. You have to have a twilight open house. You have to have champagne. You have to have a DJ.
What's a twilight
open house? Like, during the sunset.
Okay, got it.
You got to have entertainment. Sometimes we'll have fire people. Sometimes we'll have like appetizers. So you have to make it fun. You have to make it a fun party, targeting which people that you think are going to want to buy this house, because you have to sell a lifestyle. Yeah. So that's what it is. It's selling a lifestyle, and you have to be able to know how to throw an event. Yeah. And how to throw in a successful event that's going to be cost effective. So whatever I would have learned during that time of my life, like I could have applied it. Yeah. So you can't think of things as silly thoughts, because if you like to be a DJ and like to, that's a lot of networking, or, like a lot of table hosts. I know one guy, he started such a successful business. He was a bottle service promoter in LA. And he turned all those connections into starting like a $multi-million business and renting out Airbnbs, because he now met all the rich people, that would buy the bottle service. So now he knows those sellers, and now so he got into the real estate business, and with 1 year, he has like 120 listings.
That's amazing.
Of like houses that are $20 million, $10 million. And he's like managing the event planning. Like if you want to rent a house at Coachella, if you want to rent the house and just have the lifestyle. So that experience of him doing that in his younger years of just being in promotion and bottle service landed him all these clients for now his real estate business.
Yeah, and they trust him on a deeper
and they trust
level.
him because they like know him on a fun level, you know?
He's not
so
just
like
their
don't think of
broker.
things so seriously. Like just think about like what you're passionate about, what you like, and then just go for it, you know? And then in the process, you're going to learn skill sets. Like my first sales job was I was in Cutco. I was selling knives and like going to people's houses and telling them why this Cutco knife was like the best knife possible.
Yeah.
But like I was making really good money, like, you know, in college, like for just a small part-time thing. And it taught me the people skills to be able to go to people's house and door knock, you know, if you think about it, that's technically where I learned door knocking.
Yeah.
Go to people's houses and sell knives. Like,
that's very interesting.
So everything you learn in your life will lead up to you being successful. And I think that's kind of like, you know, us growing up in high school, me and Joe went to high school together. Yeah. We would sit, Joe was in mock trial, you know, he was an amazing opening and closing lawyer. And he would be badass, like, you know, and I was in like, I loved doing mock trial. All those skills like help us become who we are today. So I think like that's my advice to my childhood self, just not to like try to grow up so fast and just enjoy the moments.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to need to use later or what you're going to use later. You know, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, right? If there's 3 things I'll require for my kids, it's that they're going to go have 3 different jobs. One is, you know, they're going to do a service industry job, which is like a waiter or server, or maybe now that you've said this, like something as like a bottle service person or something, right? Where you like make connections like that. Secondly, would be like a grocery store person, just to be humble and, you know, pack bags. And then the last thing will be a sales job, right? Because you never know when you're gonna need to sell something. Yeah. And each one of these jobs, you're gonna learn these invaluable skills, which you'll be able to use later on, and until you actually And people are always so like, well, this job sucks, I'm not gaining anything from it. Like, you're gaining a lot from it.
Yeah, you're making connections. It's all what you make out of it. Yeah. So if all those bad things didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have thought the idea to write the book, if you think about it. Yeah. So everything in life, like, it's how you approach it. Like if you look at it as a negative thing, like, oh my God, this happened to me. No. Yeah. These things happen to you so you can learn, you can grow, and you can become better at what you do. Yeah. So I think that that's so true, and like you have to be humble, and because that's where you honestly will meet the most amount of connections. Like if I just hung out and did you know, things that I was passionate about, like going and helping other people, those are the valuable relationships that I'm going to make. And those people are going to probably try to refer me business because they want to see me succeed. So don't just think like about work, you know, in my opinion, you have to be able to take breaks and do things that you love and at the same time. Yeah, so.
You never know where you're going to learn or who you're going to meet or what you're going to do, right? Every time you go out or everything you do is an opportunity. Oh, absolutely. And for, you know, for any of the young people that might be listening, it's just remember, like, every job you do and everything you do is just a stepping stool to get you to your goals. Don't feel ashamed or don't feel bad about what you're doing. You know, you're doing what you're doing at that time because that's where you are in life. And you'll grow and you'll change, and you just remember everything you do every day will be a skill that you can take later and use one way or the other, even if it has nothing to do with what your end career is. You know, just like Nicole described with fundraising, like that's something, you know, you made me think about it too, because I was in a frat, we had a couple philanthropy events, and these are all skill sets that, you know, I haven't needed to use them, but you know, you learn how to deal with businesses. Remember minutes?
Like we had like,
you take minutes of the
we
meetings.
We had to take minutes of meetings, like, and I was like, oh my God, this is like literally what CEOs do. Is with the
it's like a business.
Like they take minutes like after every single meeting, and that's literally the future, what you learn. So all these skill sets, 2 things take away is discipline and consistency. Yeah. That's why they tell you to do homework, and because they're teaching you how to be disciplined to like do the same thing over. And the more consistent you are, the more disciplined you are, the better and more successful you'll be.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think honestly that's a great place to end, because I think that was just some great advice that people should think and ruminate on a little bit, right? And you know, share that with your loved ones. You just never know what experiences are going to turn into something great for you. So what I want you to do now is if you can share your contact information for everybody. Once again, your email, your phone number, your website, one more time, just so people can reach out to you if they have questions. I know if you're a real estate agent just getting started, Nicole is always willing to talk and give advice, so you guys can reach out to her whenever you'd like. But Nicole, please go ahead and share your contact information so people can reach out to you.
Okay, so it's Nicole, Necole, and then last name is Abood, Abboud, as in David. And my phone number is 949-910-6454. And my email address is nicoleabood@gmail.com. Again, I don't know if I should repeat it, but N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, C as in Charlie, O as in octopus, LE, and then last name is A as in apple, B as in boy, B as in boy, OUD as in David @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if any of you need to reach out to her, please go ahead and reach out. Nicole, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was a lot of great information.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned a lot today. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize the struggles. They just think, I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to go out there and it's going to be easy peasy. But there's just so many things that people just have no idea. And it's so cutthroat out there. So it's great to see that you were able to find some positive lights from it. You're able to succeed in this field that, it can be very difficult, and just super proud of you. So great job.
I'm always here to give ethical advice, and I'm always honest with my clients, even like multiple times, they'd be like, I want to buy this house. I'd be like, no, this is not a good investment. I will not let you buy it. So it's not just about, like commission for me. If you are ready today, ready in the future, I'm here to give you actual real advice that's going to be good for you and your family, because I believe in setting up families just like my parents set up for me. So I really believe in that. And I thank you guys for the opportunity and look forward to helping any one of you.
Cool. Very cool. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Cool.
Nasty.